I moved to this small town a few weeks ago. I'm 34, and I thought it would be a good fresh start. My life had been messy, and I needed a change. The apartment was cozy, filled with vintage charm. It was close to the town square, all decorated for Christmas. It seemed perfect. On my first night, I noticed shadows flickering across my window. I thought it might just be the streetlights. It was dark, and maybe my mind was playing tricks. But then I heard it. A giggle. It was the laughter of children outside. I thought, what kids are out this late? I wasn't sure if I should check. The laughter felt strange, wrapping around me like a quiet spell. As the days passed and Christmas got closer, things got weirder. One night, I heard tapping on the walls. It was slow and rhythmic. I felt my heart race. I was tired, but I couldn't ignore it. I thought it could just be the old building settling. That night, I looked out. I saw kids playing in the town square after midnight. Their laughter rang clear, but when I stepped outside, they vanished. The square was empty, just the bright lights twinkling in the cold air. I wondered if I was imagining things. Maybe the new job was stressing me out. But every night, the laughter got closer. One night, I woke up suddenly. It was too quiet. Something didn't feel right. I stepped out of bed and saw my apartment door slowly swinging open. My heart sank. I didn't remember leaving it unlocked. A chill crept down my spine. I stepped cautiously towards the door, hoping it was just the wind. But I knew it felt wrong. Things kept changing. One day, I found a picture frame lying face down. It hadn't fallen. My coffee cup would go missing from the counter. I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. Then it got worse. I woke to the sounds of laughter, but when I checked, there were no kids anywhere. One night, it got really loud, like a distant jingle. I looked outside, my heart racing. There they were again, the kids, standing silently, staring at me. Their smiles were strange, almost too wide. Then, I heard a whisper. "Come play with us, Mark." I froze. My mind raced with fear. I wanted to leave and never look back. I took a step away, and I felt a presence behind me closing in. I turned, but there was nothing there. It felt like the air was thick. I glanced back outside. The kids lingered, smiles still stretched wide across their faces. I felt trapped, like the walls of my apartment were closing in. That night, I buried my head under the blankets and tried to sleep. But the laughter wouldn't stop. I felt like I was losing my grip. What was wrong with this place? Was I going crazy? Now I sit here, questioning everything. I really don't know what to believe anymore. Every shadow outside my window feels alive, and every laugh makes me shudder. I'm not sure how much longer I can stay here. The next day, I decided to take a walk. I needed fresh air and a chance to clear my head. The sun was shining, but the chill in the air made me shiver. I walked toward the town square, hoping to shake off the unease that clung to me like a fog. As I reached the square, I noticed a small crowd gathered around a booth selling Christmas hot cocoa. I approached, thinking maybe a warm drink would help. A woman in a red sweater smiled at me as she handed me a cup. "First one's free," she said cheerfully. I took it, grateful for the warmth. While I waited for my drink, I looked around. It felt normal, comforting even. Children laughed and played nearby, building snowmen and throwing snowballs. I tried to relax, but a feeling of dread kept creeping back. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just the strange nights getting to me. Then I saw the kids again. They stood apart from the others, just beyond the edge of the square. Their faces looked familiar, but I couldn't place them. I squinted, trying to see better, but they remained in shadow. Suddenly, one of them, the girl with the wide smile, pointed right at me. My breath caught in my throat. I turned away, focusing on my drink instead. I was just imagining things. The woman at the cocoa stand chatted with another customer, but I didn't hear what they were saying. My heart raced. I could feel the girl's eyes on me, even as I tried to ignore it. Before I could gather my thoughts, I heard a scream. The sound sliced through the air like a knife. I looked back in alarm. It came from a little boy who had been playing nearby. He was now standing frozen, staring at the kids I'd seen haunting my dreams. They hadn't moved, but the way they looked at him was unsettling. "Mom!" he yelled, running straight toward his mother, who rushed to scoop him up in her arms. Panic spread through the onlookers, whispers bouncing around the square. "What's wrong?" someone asked. They were just staring," the boy cried, pointing back. I held my breath and turned to look, but the kids were gone. Just like that, they had vanished into thin air. Confusion replaced my fear. I felt dizzy, like the world around me was slipping. I turned to the woman with the cocoa. "Did you see them?" I blurted out. The woman's smile froze. "What kids?" she asked, her eyes wide. Suddenly, I felt exposed, like the ground was shifting beneath me. I clutched my drink, now cold in my hands, my heart thundering. Were they real? Had I imagined everything? Just when I thought I might calm down, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, squinting at the screen. It was a text from an unknown number. "Remember us, Mark?" My skin prickled. Before I could reply, the power flickered, lights dimming for a moment. A shadow darted past me, and I turned sharply. That's when I saw it, a figure lingering at the edge of the square. My heart dropped. Someone was watching me. I stood frozen, staring at the figure. It was just a silhouette, but I could feel the weight of its gaze locking onto me. My mind raced with thoughts of the kids, the shadowy faces that had haunted my dreams. Was this just another figment of my imagination? I took a step back, gripping my phone like a lifeline. The crowd seemed oblivious to the figure lurking in the shadows. They were wrapped up in their own world, laughing and enjoying their hot cocoa. My heart raced, the contrast between their bliss and my creeping dread striking me hard. I forced myself to blink, to focus. The figure inched closer, details sharpening. I could make out a tattered coat and a ragged scarf, but the face remained hidden, shrouded in darkness. I wanted to call out, to alert someone, but I felt paralyzed. Then the figure raised a hand, pointing directly at me. I stumbled back, nearly spilling what was left of my cocoa. Fear surged through me. Who was this person? What did they want? Suddenly, a sharp laugh broke through the noise of the square. It was high and chilling, like ice scraping against stone. It sent a shiver down my spine. My instincts kicked in, and I turned, shoving my way through the crowd. I just needed to get away. I didn't stop until I reached a nearby alley, panting and leaning against the cold brick wall. My thoughts jumbled. I pulled out my phone again. I considered texting back, or even calling, but the fear of what awaited me was too strong. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. But before I could think about what to do next, I heard footsteps. They were soft, echoing from the alley's mouth. I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding, hoping whoever it was wouldn't notice me. A moment later, a figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't the same as the one from before, but even in the dim light I could see that it was one of the kids, the girl with the wide smile. My breath hitched. How was she here? Were all of them capable of traversing the town as they pleased? She looked around, the smile still plastered on her face, but her eyes were dark, almost soulless. My instincts screamed for me to run, but I couldn't tear my gaze away from her. There was something almost mesmerizing about her presence, even as it filled me with dread. "Mark," she said, her voice soft yet unsettling. "We've been waiting for you." Each word felt like a spell wrapping around me. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Fear paralyzed me once more as she took a step closer, and then another. "Come play with us," she added, tilting her head slightly. Before I could react, the warmth of the crowd faded, the laughter lost in the distance. The world shifted again, and I felt the old dread return. This was different from the strange dreams. This was real, and she was real. Just as I thought I might scream, the power flickered again. The lights in the square went out entirely, plunging everything into darkness. I could feel her presence right in front of me, a shadow in the night. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. There were others. I could hear the soft patter of feet all around me, closing in. I was surrounded. I gripped my phone tighter, the cold plastic digging into my palm. Panic surged through me as I strained to hear, to make sense of the whispers around me. My heart raced, each beat echoing in my ears like a warning. The girl with the wide smile stepped closer, and I could hardly breathe. "Mark, don't be afraid," she said, her voice almost sweet. But the words felt like poison on my tongue. I wanted to turn and run, but my feet wouldn't move. It was as if the shadows were stretching out, anchoring me in place. Then I sensed movement to my right. A fleeting figure rushed past, and I gasped as another child appeared, a boy with messy hair and an unsettling grin. "You have to come with us," he urged, his voice almost pleading. "It's more fun here than you think." I didn't want to respond. My instincts screamed for me to escape, back into the safety of the crowded square. But the darkness swallowed my thoughts. Another child materialized behind the girl, then another, until they formed a half-circle around me. Their faces were pale, illuminated by the dull glow of a distant streetlight. "Join the game," one of them chimed in, her tones sing-song. "You'll like it." "What game?" I managed to croak, breaking my silence as the fear turned to confusion. But the smile never faltered on their faces. "The best kind," they all answered in unison, their voices harmonizing eerily. Behind them, shadows flickered, and I felt the temperature drop. A sudden gust of wind swept through the alley, carrying with it a wave of dread. I took a step back, hitting the rough wall again. There was nowhere to go. "I'm not playing anything," I said, more defiantly than I felt. I glanced at the exit of the alley, the way back to the square. I could dart for it, but the kids closed in, stepping closer, as if they were drawn by some unseen force. "Don't you want new friends?" the girl with the smile asked, and her eyes sparkled ominously. "We can show you things the others can't." My heart skipped. What did she mean by that? A voice in my head screamed to run, but something else, the heavy pull of curiosity, held me back. There was an odd allure to their words, a sense that beneath the fear lay something dark and enticing. "Come on, Mark. Don't you want to see?" The boy nudged me, grinning wider. Their eyes flickered like lanterns, guiding me deeper into the shadows. That's when I saw it. A glimmer of light at the far end of the alley, pulsing gently. It felt like a beacon, drawing me in against my better judgment. My breath caught. What was that? I had a choice to make. Stay in this chilling darkness or step forward, into whatever illusion they were weaving. But as I hesitated, the girl's smile began to fade. "Don't you trust us?" she said, the sweetness gone, replaced by a cold edge, and suddenly, fear bubbled up, pressing against my chest as the darkness shifted again. I turned, scrambling towards the exit, but a cold hand gripped my arm, firm and unyielding. "Not yet," she whispered. I glanced back, and in that moment, the glowing light winked out, plunging the alley into an even deeper darkness. My vision blurred and, fueled by sheer panic, I tore myself free. I sprinted down the alley, breathless, not daring to look back. As I emerged back into the square, the noise hit me, a cacophony of laughter and chatter overwhelming the silence that had trapped me moments ago. I turned around, but the alley stood dark and empty. Had it all been real? But then behind me, I heard familiar laughter, the same haunting giggle from before. I spun around, the chilling invitation echoing in my ears. "We're not done yet, Mark." And I knew, all too well, this was just the beginning. I stumbled away from the alley, heart pounding hard against my ribcage. It felt as if I had just run a marathon, but the laughter still danced in the air, taunting me. I tried to shake it off, to convince myself it was just my imagination, but every instinct screamed otherwise. "Mark, wait!" A voice cut through the ruckus of the square, making my stomach flip. It was Emma, my best friend, standing near the fountain with a concerned look on her face. "Where have you been?" she asked, looking relieved but confused. I swallowed hard. Should I even tell her what just happened? Would she believe me? I just needed some fresh air," I stammered, my hands trembling slightly. Emma narrowed her eyes. "Fresh air? You've been gone for 20 minutes. You look pale." Her gaze flicked to the alley behind me. "What's going on?" I stole a glance over my shoulder again. The alley looked like any other darkened passageway now, innocuous in the glow of blinking Christmas lights. my resolve locked in place, refusing to repeat the bizarre encounter. "Nothing," I said quickly. "Let's just enjoy the festival." She seemed unconvinced, but nodded. "All right. Come on. Let's get hot chocolate." We walked away from that cursed place, but the tension clung to me like a shadow. Laughter and music filled the square, and I forced myself to focus on the festive atmosphere. The smells of cinnamon and pine hung in the air, mixing with the sound of cheerful carolers. Yet, every so often, a chill would run down my spine, a reminder of the children's laughter that shaped itself into whispers. Suddenly, I spotted a group of kids nearby, gathered around a makeshift stage where an older man dressed as Santa told stories. My stomach twisted again. I couldn't shake the feeling that the children were watching me in a different way. Their eyes were bright, but that excitement felt wrong, as if they knew secrets. "Hey, we should go see," Emma said, pulling me closer to the crowd. Seeing her beaming face made me hesitate. I wanted to be present for her, yet part of me wanted to run back in the opposite direction. I think I'll get us both drinks," I replied, already turning to leave before she could protest. "Mark, wait." I hurried towards the nearby booth. The vendor greeted me with a warm smile, handing over 2 steaming cups of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with comforting, chocolatey sweetness. Anything to drown out the remnants of dread. But just as the warm drink filled my hands, I felt it again. A prickling sensation at my back. I turned slowly, scanning the crowd, but no one stood out. Yet, a chill pricked at the edge of my neck, pulsing in rhythm with the whispers I couldn't see. I couldn't ignore it. "Emma?" I called, my voice tightening in my throat. Where was she? I turned to locate her, weaving through the throng. That was when I caught a glimpse of an eerily familiar smile in the distance, one that sent ice cascading down my spine. The girl. She stood there, amongst the laughing children, eyes sparkling, unmistakably watching me. My breath hitched as I realized I wasn't safe. Not yet. Something stirred deep within me. A new resolve anchored my choices. I had to confront whatever was happening. But the moment I blinked, she was gone, swallowed up in the sea of joyful chaos. My heart raced. "I have to find her," I whispered to myself, a feeling of dread transforming into determined urgency. But just as I took a step forward, a voice echoed in my mind. "It's your turn now, Mark." And I knew in that moment, nothing could prepare me for what awaited next. I took a deep breath, clutching the hot chocolate cups firmly. The warmth seeped through my fingertips, but it did little to thaw the frost settling in my chest. I scanned the square again, desperate for any sign of the girl. She couldn't just vanish like that. The air felt thick, a tension wrapping around me like a vice. "Mark!" Emma's voice shattered my focus, pulling me back. She stood a few feet away, waving excitedly, a small crowd of kids around her. Relief washed over me to see her, but it was quickly replaced by anxiety as I glanced at the children's faces. They looked too eager. I forced myself to smile. "Hey, I got us hot chocolate," I said, approaching them. But as I drew closer, the kids turned their attention toward me, eyes bright with that same unsettling excitement. I tried to ignore the strangeness of it all. "Can we have some?" one of the boys asked, bouncing on his feet. No, this is for us," I replied, guilt creeping in. They all looked disappointed, and I felt bad. I had to remember they were just kids. Yet the laughter I heard earlier echoed in my mind, weaving in and out of my thoughts. "Mark, look!" Emma pointed toward the stage, her eyes wide with wonder. I followed her gaze and saw the Santa impersonator pulling a chair aside, revealing a trap door beneath. Gasps erupted from the kids around us. "Who knew Santa had secret tricks?" Emma exclaimed, clearly enchanted. I felt cold dread twist in my stomach again. Just then, the man called out, "Who's brave enough to join me?" His voice rang out, inviting and slightly chilling. A few children squealed and jumped forward, but their excitement felt more like anticipation than joy. "I think I should—" I started, but the words stuck in my throat. "Come on. It could be fun," Emma urged, bouncing on her heels. It was too easy to get swept up in her enthusiasm, but I hesitated. Something deep inside me was screaming to stay away. As if sensing my reluctance, A familiar trilling laughter erupted from that dark place again, the echoes slinking through the laughter of the festival like a poisonous whisper. Then, out in the crowd, I spotted her again, the girl with the eerie smile. She stood at the edge of the gathering, watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I couldn't shake the feeling she was somehow connected to the strange happenings around us. "Mark, please!" Emma tugged my arm, her excitement palpable. "We should go see what's down there." Before I could respond, a chill crept through the air, sending goosebumps across my arms. Instinctively, I pulled away from her grip. I couldn't let myself get trapped in a situation I didn't understand. "I can't, Emma. I just can't." "Why not?" she asked, confused. But my focus was already drifting back to the stage, where the man was beckoning the kids closer. I knew I had to do something. I had to find out who the girl was and why the atmosphere felt so twisted. Before I could think it through, I turned and headed toward the entrance of the alley, the laughter dying down behind me. My heart raced, fueled by sheer determination. The truth had to be there waiting for me, hiding in the shadows. That's when I saw it. A shimmer of something catching the light, just beyond the edge of the alley. My footsteps faltered. I couldn't tell what it was, but I felt drawn to it. And as I stepped closer, I caught the scent of something familiar yet terrifying. I had to know. But as I reached for the elusive shimmer, the world around me started to blur. My surroundings darkened, and everything went silent. I couldn't breathe. "Mark!" Emma's voice echoed faintly in the distance. And that's when I realized I had stepped too far into something I might not be able to escape. Everything went black. The silence was suffocating. I felt a pull, like being dragged underwater. For a moment, all I could do was struggle against the nothingness surrounding me. Then, just as quickly as it started, the darkness receded. Lights blasted back into view, too bright. I blinked repeatedly to adjust, but my head spun. I found myself standing in a dimly lit room. The walls were adorned with faded festive decorations that twisted and curled at the edges. "Mark?" Emma's voice echoed again, but it sounded distant. I spun around, frantic. "Emma, where are you?" The room felt alive with a restless energy. Shadows danced in the corners, and I could hear whispers, indistinct yet unnerving. Panic surged through me. This wasn't right. I had only stepped into an alley. "Over here!" Emma called, her voice clearer. I sprinted toward the sound, heart pounding. I burst through a doorway and stumbled into an even larger space, filled with strange shapes and noises. In the center stood the Santa Man, now looming over a table piled with what looked like gifts. He turned, the flickering light casting eerie shadows over his face. His expression was twisted, more sinister than merry. "Welcome, brave souls," he boomed, but there was no joy in his voice. The children from the square congregated around him, eyes vacant, entranced. I blinked, trying to fight through the haze. Reality twisted like the mirror reflections at a funhouse, and fear gnawed at my gut. The girl with the eerie smile appeared in the corner of my eye, still watching me. Her grin widened as she caught my gaze. "Mark, don't!" Emma's voice cut through me like ice. I turned, my instincts kicking in, just in time to see a wooden box on the table spring open. It was empty, but I felt the air shift, thickening around me. "What's happening?" I shouted, desperation leaking into my voice. "Everything you desire is right here," the Santa figure proclaimed, spreading his arms wide. "Join us, and you shall have your heart's wish." "No!" I yelled back. But the whispers were louder now, creeping into my head, drowning out my thoughts. "Where's Emma?" "Don't be scared," the girl said. It was an invitation and a command twisted into one. "You won't hurt me. It's all fun, Mark, just like the games." Panic surged again. I pushed past the children to reach Emma, who was standing frozen, transfixed by the unfolding scene. I grabbed her arm, pulling her away. "Come on, we have to leave." As we backed away, the Santa Man's face morphed into something darker, rage flickering in his eyes. "You dare defy the spirit of the season?" I could feel him reaching for us, a force I couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, a surge of energy rippled through the room, spilling like a wave crashing against the shore. "Run!" I shouted, dragging Emma with me, searching for an exit. My mind raced. This was no simple holiday festival. And then, just as I thought we could escape, I spotted it. The shimmer again, right in front of a shadowy corner. It pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning me. "Mark!" Emma yelled, pulling back as panic took over again. "We need to go!" But the light pulled at my very soul. I hesitated, torn between escape and whatever the shimmer promised. Then I knew. I had a choice, but it felt like the wrong one. That's when everything shifted again. The room trembled and swirled like it was alive, and I stumbled backward, clutching Emma's hand tightly. The shimmer in the corner of my vision grew brighter, while the Santaman's eyes blazed with a disturbing intensity. The children's whispers intensified into a cacophony, drowning out any rational thought. "Mark, we can't stay here," Emma insisted, her grip tightening. I could feel the heat radiating from the Santa figure, a tangible threat. "We need to find a way out now." I forced myself to take a step away from the light. "But what if we can escape through the shimmer?" I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. It seemed to promise a way out, a chance for clarity amid the chaos. The Santa figure roared with laughter, a sound that chilled me to the bone. "Fleeing into the light, foolish child? That glow is only the beginning of your despair." "You don't know what you're talking about!" I shouted back, my voice wavering. But doubt began to creep in. I stared at Emma, who looked pale and terrified, her breath coming in quick gasps. "Just listen to me. We need to stick together," she urged, eyes wide. "If we don't escape now, we might get sucked back into whatever this is." With a quick glance around, I saw the faces of the children twisting in the shadows, their expressions blank, like they were waiting for something, ready to pounce at any moment. The girl with the eerie smile crept closer, her eyes locked onto mine. There was only madness behind that smile. "Mark!" The urgency in Emma's voice pierced through the growing hysteria. "This isn't a festival. We need to find a door. Something." I took a breath, and the faint glimmer of a door caught my eye at the far end of the room. "There!" I pointed, my heart racing. "We can make it to that door." Before I could think twice, I bolted toward it, dragging Emma along. The whispers turned frantic, weaving around us like a hypnotic spell. My heart pounded against my ribs as we weaved through the entranced children. I could scarcely believe the intensity of the energy building behind us. The Santa figure raised his hand, and the atmosphere crackled with a strange power. "Don't let them leave. They must stay," he bellowed. The air around me shifted, growing thick and suffocating. I pushed through the crowd, feeling the pull of the light at the door call out to me again. "Keep going, Emma," I yelled, and we broke free from the throng of wide-eyed children. We raced toward the door, but as we neared, it shuddered, the frame splintering as if caught in a hurricane. My breath caught in my throat. "No, no, no." Emma stumbled at my side, panic rising as the shadows swarmed closer, hungry. "Hurry," she pleaded. Just as I reached for the doorknob, a cacophony of laughter erupted, and the girl appeared again, right in front of me, her grin broader than ever. "You can't run from what you truly desire, Mark," she chirped. I froze, taken aback. "Get out of the way." "Don't you want to see?" She tilted her head, and the world shifted, melting into a different scene. Thick fog rolling in, a Christmas tree standing alone in a desolate landscape. That's when I saw it. A small glass ornament dangling from the tree, glowing with an alluring light. "Emma!" I shouted. But the scene shifted again, plunging me into darkness as the laughter grew louder, echoing around me. Then, everything went black. I felt as if I was falling, and all I could think was that I had a choice to make. But now, trapped in shadow, I was left wondering if I would ever find my way out. I gasped for air as I landed with a thud on a cold, hard surface. My surroundings gradually came into focus. I was no longer in the chaotic room full of children. Instead, I found myself in a dimly lit corridor lined with doors, each slightly ajar, shadows creeping out from within. The air felt heavy, saturated with a chilling silence that pressed down on me. "Emma!" I called out, my voice shaky and echoing unnaturally. Panic clawed at my chest as I realized she was nowhere to be seen. I scrambled to my feet, dread pooling in my stomach. "Where are you?" I shouted again, louder this time. My heart raced. I took a cautious step forward, glancing nervously at each door. They were all dark and inviting, whispering secrets that I was terrified to uncover. The corridor felt unending, stretching far into darkness. Then, I noticed something strange. Each door had a nameplate, but not the kind you would expect. They were labeled with past Christmas dates: December 25th, 1997, December 25th, 2002, December 25th, 2010. I took a hesitant step closer to the first door marked 1997. A disoriented memory surfaced, a Christmas morning filled with laughter, and my long-lost dog, Max, waiting by the tree. My heart ached. But was this a memory or a trap? I turned my gaze to the next door. 2002. The faded image of my younger sister, grinning as she unwrapped a gift, flickered in my mind. I remembered how excited we were, our parents caught up in the moment, and the warmth of our tiny living room. But with those memories came a nagging sense of loss. "Mark!" A voice sliced through my thoughts. It was faint, as if emanating from behind one of the doors. Desperation surged through me. "Help! Emma!" I shouted as I rushed toward the sound, fueled by instinct. I reached for the handle of the door labeled 2010, hesitating for a moment. Would opening this door lead me to her? Or would it trap me in another memory? I turned the knob and slammed the door open. The room inside was drenched in light, a stark contrast to the shadows outside. I stepped in, fully expecting to find Emma. Instead, I was greeted by the very Christmas scene I had tried to escape. A family gathering, bustling with life. Just like the memories I had glimpsed before. But the laughter didn't feel warm. It felt mocking, hollow. There in the corner, I saw her, Emma, sitting at the table, but her eyes were glassy, as if she were entranced. The other figures were indistinct, yet oddly familiar, but their laughter hurt my ears. "Emma!" I shouted, pain clawing my throat. She turned slowly, her expression blank. "Mark," she whispered, as if struggling to break free from a trance. "You need to get out. You can't stay here." Before I could respond, the scene around us warped and twisted. Suddenly, I could see spectral figures just beyond the edges of my vision. Shadows reached out towards me, whispering words I couldn't understand. I stumbled back, slamming the door behind me. I leaned against it, breathless and trembling. This corridor was more dangerous than I had thought. The shadows were alive, hungry. Now I had to decide where to go. To stay was to confront the shadows. To run was to risk losing Emma forever. Then, from the far end of the corridor, another door creaked open, and a distant voice drifted through the air. "Mark, come see." The words echoed with familiarity. They snared my attention, igniting a flicker of hope and fear. I took a tentative step toward the unfolding mystery, unsure of what awaited me, but knowing I had no other choice. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay beyond that door, a mixture of hope and dread coursing through me. As I approached, the shadows around me flickered, making it hard to focus. My instinct screamed for me to turn back, but I couldn't. Emma's voice still echoed in my mind. The door creaked open further as I gently pushed it, revealing another dimly lit room. A single low-hanging light illuminated the space, casting erratic shadows that danced on the walls. To my surprise, I found myself in what looked like a poorly decorated party room, complete with tinsel and an abundance of half-emptied soda bottles littering the small tables. And standing there, surveying the chaotic scene, was the girl with the wide smile. She was no longer just an apparition. She was here, alive and vivid, her oversized grin radiating something sinister, yet oddly inviting. My heart raced as she stepped forward, holding out a small, intricately decorated Christmas ornament, a glass candy cane that sparkled as if lit from within. "Mark," she said, her voice a melodic echo that intertwined with the laughter from before. But there was a heaviness in the air that made my skin prickle. "You found us." "Where's Emma?" I demanded, a sense of urgency cracking my voice. Her smile faded slightly, and she pouted. "You could join us for the party, or—" The sweetness returned to her tone. "You could keep searching. Isn't that what you want?" She gestured grandly to the room, where others, both adult and child, began to appear, all with expressions caught between joy and emptiness. "Join us, Mark," they echoed, their voices blending together into a haunting chorus. Everything in me screamed to run, but a part of me was captivated by the ornament, the swirling colors within it promising something otherworldly. In that instant, I felt the pull of temptation, and memories flashed through my mind, warm family gatherings, laughter, simple moments I'd longed to relive. But it was all a facade, a trap. "Emma," I called again, stepping back. "Where is she?" The girl's expression shifted to one of surprise. "You refuse our offer?" She twirled the ornament in her hand before tossing it casually aside. It shattered against the tiled floor, an explosion of colors scattering wildly as if splintering dreams. At once the laughter faded, replaced by a chilling silence. The shadows around me deepened and began to creep closer. I could feel them, dark tendrils, hungry and impatient. "This is your chance, Mark. Choose!" The girl's voice transformed, demanding yet dull. "It's not a game," I countered weakly, heart pounding as the room darkened and the shapes became indistinct. "Everything is a game here," she replied, the shadows wrapping around her like a cloak. "You either play or watch." Suddenly, an anchor of determination surged in me. I couldn't let fear dictate my fate. "No!" I yelled, lungs bursting. "I won't play!" As my voice rang through the room, the atmosphere shifted and cracked, like ice breaking apart. The figures that had seemed alive transformed into grotesque shadows, amalgamating into a vortex swirling around me. They seemed to churn, embodying all the voices of lost dreams and forgotten joy, longing for escape. I turned, frantic, and darted back the way I came, ignoring their increasingly desperate calls to play. I slammed through the door, found myself back in the dark corridor, and barely paused before sprinting toward the nearest door marked 1997. I yanked it open and stumbled inside. Everything shifted again. Flashes of lights, snippets of laughter echoing from years past engulfed me. I caught a glimpse of my younger self, bright-eyed and blissfully ignorant of the darkness that loomed over those innocent days. But chaos quickly set in. The shadowy whispers wrapped tighter around me, and suddenly the warmth of nostalgia twisted into cold regret. I felt their weight pressing, threatening to pull me under. With every ounce of strength I could muster, I broke free, forcing myself deeper into the memories. "I have to find Emma," I called, running deeper into my own past. And there she was, a younger version of my beloved friend, laughing over a board game at a table, not far from the frightening depths of my nostalgia. "Mark!" she squealed, eyes twinkling. "Come play with us!" "Emma!" I shouted, and I reached for her, desperate. But she vanished, dissolving into the air like mist caught in the first rays of a fierce dawn. The shadows lunged at me, hungry for my memories, and suddenly I was back in the corridor, gasping, visions swimming. I took a step back, leaning against the wall, frustration and fear combating the strange sense of familiarity swirling around me. With renewed determination, I knew I couldn't stand still. I turned and sprinted down the corridor, bursting through doors marked with dates of my life, desperately searching for Emma, blindly following the haunting echoes of her voice until I reached the end. But the last door, simple and unadorned, stood between me and anything resembling escape. I grasped the knob, heart pounding, and flung it open. Darkness swallowed me whole, yet I fell forward, tumbling out onto the ground. And when I blinked, the vivid lights of the town square surrounded me, brilliant and festive, yet eerily silent. The laughter that had once felt haunting now held an uneasy tension. All around me, children played, lights blinked, but engendered within me was an unsettling familiarity. "Where could she be?" I whispered, scanning the throngs of cheerful faces. That laughter twisted in the air once more. But now it was different, familiar. The haunting invitation echoed in my mind. "Don't you want to play, Mark?" And then I heard it. A whisper in the wind. The voice of the girl with the wide smile. "We're still waiting, Mark." Heart racing, I stumbled back and took a deep breath, my throat tight. I still didn't know what was real or imagined, The shadows loomed in the corners of my thoughts, and as the night carried on, I realized the game was not yet over. I had escaped, yes, but the questions lingered like ghostly shadows, both enticing and terrifying. And as I walked away from the square, a part of me feared I would never be free from the inevitability of their whispers. It was impossible to know if I had truly escaped, or if I would find myself facing them again tomorrow. A pawn in the game they played, forever caught between light and the darkness that beckoned.